Hello everyone, I am Dr. Vanita. So today we'll be discussing about type study of mammals, in which we'll be discussing about the excretory system and reproductive system of rabbit. So knowing about the excretory system, one of the important system of animal physiology. So excretory system of rabbit consists of a pair of kidneys, bean shaped kidneys, and then a pair of ureters, urinary bladder, which is storing the urine, and urethra or the urinogenital tract. So these are the four major components of the excretory system. Moving on to kidneys. So kidneys, as we are acquainted, the bean shaped organs situated in the lumbar region, and the right kidney is usually found higher between the thoracic bone 13 and lumbar bone, which is lumbar 2 vertebrae, while the left kidney is between lumbar 2 and lumbar bone 4. So like this we find slight change in the placement of kidneys, whereas right kidney is placed little higher and the left kidney is placed little lower, and it is a bean shaped organ, and it is the organ which is having the smallest unit of filtration, which is nephron. So nephrons are the functional unit, and about 1,70,000 to 2,50,000 nephrons are there per kidney that filters blood, and it has malpighian bodies located in the cortex. So knowing about the finer components of nephron, the first important component of the nephron is the Bowman's capsule. Bowman's capsule is a cup-shaped double-walled epithelial sac at the beginning of the kidney, and it is surrounded by a glomerulus. It serves as a primary site for blood filtration, collecting plasma filtrate like water, waste, solutes. So these are some of the filtrate which is collected by the Bowman's capsule, and in the Bowman's capsule we find glomerular capillaries. So these are small tubules. These capillaries are small blood vessels which which filter these kind of filtrates like water, waste and solutes from the blood, and they form the urine, which is then moved to the proximal convoluted tubule. So this is the structure Bowman's capsule, where we find number of fine blood vessels. These fine blood vessels are called as the capillaries, which does the work of filtration of the waste and other components from the blood. Now we will be knowing more about the parts of kidneys. So each kidney has an outer cortex. Cortex is a region which is which is outer layer of the kidney, and the inner layer of the kidney is called as the medulla, and it is also having a funnel shaped renal pelvis. So these are the major regions of the kidneys. Coming to the Henle's loop. The loop of Henle, it is also called as the nephron loop, or Henle's loop, also called as ansa nephroni. It is a U-shaped portion of the kidney tubule that links the proximal and the distal convoluted tubule, and this Henle's loop plays an important role in water conservation and urine concentration. It generates a high concentration gradient in the medulla via concurrent multiplier system, allowing reabsorption of water, sodium chloride and urea to produce concentrated urine. So it's a very important role of conservation, especially water conservation, which is played by the Henle's loop. So this is the structure of nephron having glomerulus and the Henle's loop. Now we will move on to the next important component of the excretory system after kidneys, which is the ureter. Now, ureters are thin-walled, narrow cylindrical tubes that transports urine from the renal pelvis to the urinary bladder. The function of ureter is only transportation. So, it is like a tubular structure which just transports the urine from the kidneys through the to the urinary bladder. Urinary bladder is a median pear-shaped thin-walled muscular sac which stores urine. So, this particular bladder is only a storage organ which stores the urine, and then it passes on the urine from the urinary bladder to the urethra. Now, urethra or the urinogenital canal. So, this is the last component of the excretory system. Now, the duct that transports urine out of the urinary bladder and the body is the urethra. So, urethra is a organ which is related to expelling the urine. It is also named as urinogenital canal, as this is a common opening for the reproductive system and the excretory system. So, it is referred as a urinogenital, urine plus genital canal, a common canal where the excretory waste like urine is excreted as well as the reproductive waste is excreted, or the reproductive organs are excreted, like the semen. Semen is also released from this particular canal. So, this is about the major components of the excretory system. Now, we will move on to the urine formation in rabbits. Urine formation in rabbits involve three major functioning. The first one is filtration, the second one reabsorption, and the last one is secretion. Now, these three kinds of processes takes place in the nephrons to manage the metabolic waste and handle high dietary calcium intake. Now, we will be knowing more about the key processes in rabbit urine formation. As we have seen, the filtration is the first important aspect, which is about the urine formation. So, this filtration occurs in the glomerulus, where the blood pressure forces water, urea and salts including electrolytes out of the blood and into the Bowman's capsule, forming a filtrate. After filtrate, there is reabsorption. Reabsorption of what? Essential nutrients like glucose, amino acids. These are reabsorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule. After reabsorption, there is also concentration and calcium handling. So, the loop of Henle creates an osmotic gradient because rabbits have limited capacity to concentrate urea. So, they produce high volumes of urine, which is typically turbid. So, what is turbidity means? Turbidity is a thick fluid which is produced, or something like a creamy white fluid which is produced. Why it is produced? Because of heavy excretion of calcium carbonate, CaCO3. So, how is this calcium carbonate produced in the body? Due to the diet rich in fiber, so this capacity of calcium intake is more in the body. As a result, this calcium carbonate is excessively also expelled from the urine. As a result, the urine is thick in white color or something like a turbid fluid. Now, we also have the secretion aspect of the urine, secretion in the nephron. So, this secretion takes place in the distal tubule, and excess of potassium, hydrogen ions and drugs are secreted in the urine. The distal tubule and the collecting duct is crucial for the final urine composition, and it secretes potassium, hydrogen ions and certain drugs, toxins into the tubular fluid to maintain body homeostasis. So this homeostasis is a phenomena where the body is able to maintain a conducive environment or conducive temperature of the body in terms of the external environment. The external environment, if it is very hot, the body is able to maintain its temperature. The body is also able to maintain its temperature uh, as against cool weather also. Uh, so this aspect of maintaining itself against the temperatures of the body, and this phenomena is also able to maintain the acid base balance fluids in the body to a normal state is homeostasis. So this process is regulated by the hormones to adjust for diet and metabolic needs, as there is so much of physiological aspects going on in the system to maintain or regulate it. The hormones maintain this kind of homeostasis in rabbit. Now coming to the reproductive system of rabbit. So in the reproductive system, in the male reproductive system, it consists of two oval shaped testes located in the scrotal sacs. So these scrotal sacs are outside the abdominal cavity, and it is specialized to produce sperms and testosterone. So this is a structure of the reproductive system of the male, where we find the testes, scrotal sacs. Now we have seen about the pair of testes, scrotal sacs. We'll be knowing about some more important components of the male reproductive system. So epididymis is also another important component of the male reproductive system, which is meant for the maturation of the sperms. So here we have the testis, which is producing the sperms, and from here it is moving on to the epididymis, which is helping the sperms to mature, and then from the epididymis there is another structure which is called vasa differentia, which is meant for transport of the sperms from the vas differentia to the urethra and finally to the penis. In some other aspects of the male reproductive system, apart from these components, we also have some of the accessory glands. Accessory glands are the glands which produce some fluids which help in movement of the sperms, movement of this particular semen, so that there is high fertility in these organisms. So we'll know about these kind of accessory glands. So there are three important accessory glands, which are the prostrate, Cowper's glands and the perineal glands. These produce semen, and it is helping for high fertility at around 4 to 8 months. So by 4 months it is able to produce the gestation. All this is happening again. So we'll be knowing further in detail about one of the important component, the first important component of the male reproductive system, which is the testis, or also called as the testicles. A pair of oval light pink testes, and it is responsible for producing sperms or the spermatogenesis and testosterone hormone. So you can see the structure of the testis or the testicles, which is responsible for the production of the sperms through the hormone called testosterone, and this process of production of sperms is called as spermatogenesis. Now the second important component of the male reproductive system is the scrotal sacs. So as the name indicates, it is a sac-like structure with two thin walled sacs covered in hair located outside the abdomen, and these testes can move between the scrotal sacs and the abdominal cavity. So these sacs are nothing but some kind of pouches where testes are. It is something like a pouch which is holding the testes, and these are outside the body. And the third important organ of the male reproductive system is the epididymis. This is highly coiled and it is divided into the head, body and the tail. So, the scientific terminology of this, the first organ is the caput. So, epididymis is having the first important organ, which is the caput, which is nothing but the head, and corpus is the body, and then the last one is the chorda or the tail. So, these three important regions are in epididymis, and these are found on the inner surface of the testis, where sperm matures and gains the motility. The function of epididymis is that when the sperms are produced in the testes, these testes are gone in small kind of tubes which are present inside the epididymis, and here this kind of sperms are getting matured in this organ of epididymis. So, after knowing about the third important organ, we move to the tubular structure, which is the vas differentia. So, this tubular structure, it helps in transport of the sperm from epididymis to the urethra. So, vas differentia has a tubular structure, and it is the transport organ of the male genital system. Coming to the last organ, which is the urethra. So, urethra is a tube that passes through the penis, carrying both urine and the semen, but it is not simultaneously. So, the next external organ is the penis. So, this penis is a copulatory organ used for transferring sperms into the female reproductive tract. So we have understood about the important components of the excretory system of the male, starting from the testis, epididymis, testis, scrotal sacs, epididymis, and vas differentia. Then we have also discussed about the urethra and finally the penis. Now coming to the glands, which are called as accessory glands. So the first important accessory glands are the prostate glands, which produces seminal fluid. So what is this seminal fluid? So this is a fluid which consists of the sperms. So these prostate glands are present adjacent to the penis, adjacent to the penis and the urinary bladder. The next important gland is the Cowper's gland. It is also referred as the bulbourethral glands. Now this particular gland, which is next to the prostate glands, and it is just beside the penis, it adds secretions to the semen. By these secretions, the semen, there is a flow of the sperms in this particular semen. The last gland is the perineal gland. So this gland is located near the anus and it produces secretions along with the coagulating gland and the vesicular gland, which are also present near the testes, which contributes to the semen. So we have seen three important glands which are helpful for the secretions of the semen, apart from other glands like the coagulating gland and the vesicular glands which are contributing for the semen. Coming to the reproductive characteristics of the male rabbit. Now the sexual maturity occurs between 4 to 8 months of age. By 8 months it is sexually mature, and the ejaculatory volume is typically 0.4 to 1.5 ml of the semen, and the count of semen is around 10 to 300 million spermatozoa per milliliter. So we find quite large quantity of spermatozoa which is released in the semen. And temperature regulation, when we know about what the temperature regulation, since the testes are in a sac outside the body, they can regulate the temperature for optimal semen production. So temperature is also a very important factor in the production of semen. So we find these important characteristics of ejaculatory volume and the count, temperature equally characteristic of the reproductive system of the male. Coming to the next, female reproductive system, we have characteristic of a duplex arrangement. So, what is this duplex arrangement in the female reproductive system? It means that it is two completely separate uterine horns. That means it is having two different uteruses and structure called as uterine horns, each with its own cervix. So, as a common reproductive factor in mammal is that there is a cervix and one uterus present in the mammals. But a characteristic feature of rabbit is that it is having two different uterine horns and having two different cervixes also. Unlike many mammals, rabbit are induced ovulator. So, what is the term called induced ovulators? So, induced ovulators means that the eggs are released by the triggers by the act of mating rather than the spontaneous harmonious cycle. So, we all are acquainted there are so many different hormones responsible for the production of ova in mammals. But on the contrary, here the ovulation is triggered by the act of mating. If the mating is done, then ovulation is also there. So, this is the structure of the female reproductive system, having ovary and then oviductal funnel, fallopian tubes, uterus. As you can see, there are two different uterus, and then we have the vagina and the vulva. Now, we will be knowing about the components of the reproductive cycle, the breeding system in detail. So, ovaries are the structure which are present just below the kidneys, and these are small oval shaped organs located behind the kidneys, and they produce the eggs or the ova and hormones like estrogen and progesterone. These are the two important hormones of the female reproductive system. Next important component is the oviduct or the fallopian tubes. Now, these fallopian tubes are coiled tubes and that capture eggs from the ovaries, and these are the primary sites where fertilization occurs. The third important component of the female reproductive system is the duplex uterus. Now, this duplex uterus consists of two distinct uterine horns that do not fuse into a single body. It allows the rabbit to potentially carry two different litters at the different stages of development, though this is rare. So, as you can see, there are two different uterus. So, this kind of phenomena is called as duplex uterus, where there can be two different babies at different stages of their development. And double cervix. Now, each uterine horn has own cervix opening into the vagina. So, there are two uterus and two cervix, and it opens into common vagina. Now, the last important organ is the vagina and the vestibule. A long muscular tube that receives the penis through the copulation is the vagina, and the urethra joins the vagina to form the urinogenital canal or vestibule. So, this is a common organ where the urinary waste and the reproductive organ is also there. So, this is vagina and the vestibule. So, this is available for the penis so that reproduction occurs. So, this is called as the urinogenital canal in the female. And vulva and clitoris. So, these are the external openings of the reproductive tract of the female rabbit, and it is a pale pink or deep purple. And when we know about the another important organ, which is clitoris, so it is erectile structure and it is present in the anterior wall of the vulva. So, knowing about the reproductive cycle and breedings of a female reproductive system, we have the sexual maturity, which is between 4 to 8 months, and it is also depending upon the breed. By 8 months, there is sexual maturity in the females. Gestation period or the pregnancy period lasts between 31 to 33 days. So, by a month, more than a month, this is the pregnancy period or the gestation period. And another important phenomena called induced ovulation is there. That means the eggs are released roughly around 10 to 13 hours after mating. So, this phenomena is called as induced ovulation. That means mating is responsible for the production of ovulation by 10 to 13 days. And the last is nesting. So, we are acquainted about nesting phenomena in birds, but we also find nesting in rabbits, where a few days before giving birth, the rabbit will pull fur from her own body to line a nest. So, small fur like things are present there. The fur is removed from the body and laid for the babies. So, this process is nesting, or it is making the baby more comfortable with the nest. So, these are the important component of the female reproductive system. So, concluding, we have known today about the reproductive system of male and reproductive system of female, where we have seen about some of the important components of the male reproductive system, which is testes, scrotal sacs, and then we have seen about the vas deferens, epididymis, vas deferens, and the urethra penis. In the female, we have known about the ovaries and oviduct, followed by ureter. And characteristic thing in rabbit is that two ureters are present, and in addition, two cervixes are also present, followed by a common vagina and the urinogenital canal. So, these are the important physiological differences of the male and female reproductive system. And prior to that, we have dealt about the excretory system of the rabbit, where we have known about the important excretory organs like kidneys, having around 1 to 2 lakhs of nephrons responsible for the production of urine, then ureter, and then the common sac like structure, which is the bladder, urinary bladder, followed by urethra or the urinogenital canal. So, these were the important components discussed in the excretory system of rabbit. So, knowing about the excretory system and the urinogenital system of reproductive system of rabbit, we come to an understanding about the advanced characteristic of the excretory system and the genital system, giving it a more adaptable feature in the mammals. So, by this, knowing these systems are helping us to understand in depth about its characteristic feature of mammals with higher evolving ability compared to other classes. So, by this, I would like to conclude this lecture. Thank you, one and all.